Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Jefferson Highway Show. This historic highway was formed in 1915 by the Jefferson Highway Association. It runs from Winnipeg, Canada, all the way to New Orleans, Louisiana. Let's go! Hey everybody, welcome. We are so excited to go to Paola, Kansas. I mean, this is part of the Jefferson Highway, and you know we love the Jefferson Highway. Again, we always want to remind people it was started back in 1915 by the editor of the Better Homes and Garden magazine, and this is a highway that stretches from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, all the way down to New Orleans. And right now, I don't know, the highway's a little crispy in the winter, but it's going to warm up soon because we have the conference coming up in April in Alexandria, Louisiana. We'll talk about that at the end of the show, but you want to keep up with everything about what's happening this year on the Jefferson Highway at jeffersonhighway.org. Also, be sure to follow them on Facebook and join the group because the group will take you down many rabbit holes. It's fun. But always excited to have Roger Bell on the show. Roger is the president. He's got a few awesome guests joining us from Paola, Kansas. And I'm already really upset that we didn't go there when Roger told us to, but we already got a time. But Roger, welcome back. How are you?
I'm great, Lisa. It's great to be here this evening. And this is a really special podcast, I think, in the story tonight.
Yeah, I think this is exciting. I know you really wanted us to go when we were on the highway. I think this was one of our first times on the highway. And he kept going, do a detour, get on to the Paola, Kansas. And I think the name Paola is good. We know that word, don't we? Sometimes some of us may think that's like, hey, it's Friday, it's Paola Day. But I want to bring some of our guests on the show. First guest I want to bring on is Debbie Hayes. She's a city council member of Paola, Kansas. Welcome, Debbie. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Debbie, can you give us a quick overview of where Paola is? And can I get my paycheck on Friday? I'm just kidding. But where you are in Kansas, and just because you're a smaller community, but not that small. You're in like a good size to me. What feels good?
Right. I would say we're a suburb of Kansas City, although Kansas City is getting closer and closer to us through Olathe, Spring Hill, but we're kind of keeping our small town feel. We are south of Kansas City, 50 miles, I would say. Mr. Doolittle
oh my gosh,
could verify that better than me. We're just northeast Kansas, kind of up by where the little bite was taken out of our state in the corner.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're actually.
You got it.
Yeah, I'm just going like, I really now want to slap my wrist for not taking that extra turn because we were in Kansas City again too. Okay,
Yes.
We're coming to see you this year. This is happening.
I can't wait.
We are doing it. I love Kansas. Nancy and I both love Kansas. Normally Nancy's on the show with us. But she had a date with some ice. And she's doing okay. But, anyway, I'm just like putting mama to bed right now. But, Kansas is a very special state with so much history and I think that's what's so cool about the Jefferson Highway, how it goes through the city, like the center of the country. And you are.
I think it's a good time to kind of give a little historical deal about it because it's kind of unique. There is a Kansas route and a Missouri route, Jefferson Highway. And at the time, we talked about the convention in 1915 earlier. The Kansas and Missouri, I don't know what it is about them over time, but they've always fought over things. It seems like since way back in the day, and they fought over the Jefferson Highway, and they brought a big constituents, both states, to the convention, and they fought so hard over it, including people from Paola were there. And they fought so hard over it that they just said, well, we're just going to give it to both of you and see how you create your roads. And so the original route of the highway went through Paola in Kansas. And so today it's really kind of unique. And I think it's really good for tourism because you can go up the highway on the Kansas side and you can go back on the Missouri side. And it's really unique and a really interesting part of the highway.
That's what Nancy and I did the Missouri part, but we're going to do the Kansas this year. That's happening. I do want to bring our next guest on the show so he can make sure that we say everything correctly because he's a teacher. He's from the middle school. Dan Doolittle, welcome. Dan, how are you?
Oh, fine, thank you. I'm doing very well, thanks.
Are you going to make sure we get our history right today, right?
Yes.
With this. Yes.
Well, and this is really good timing because on Monday, our state, Kansas, celebrates its 163rd birthday. It's Kansas Day on Monday. So the timing couldn't be better.
Oh, I love this. You know, we have our big daily blend shows and now we'll have to do, and it celebrates all of that. So now everybody will be re-airing this show just so you know to celebrate Kansas because
I'm kind of curious too, Lisa, on Dan. I'm sorry, is, you know, from what I understand, Dan played a Jefferson Highway documentary that is out online several years ago to his class, and I brought it a little bit too. I'm just kind of curious how Dan came across it.
How it all came about. Yes. Well, yeah, Roger, that's a good question. It was 2 years ago in the spring, and we were researching some local history articles that were on our county website, and the kids got to choose. I always try to model one for them, and actually it's fun for me too. So I grabbed one that just looked interesting. I'm kind of into old highways and anything that any kind of infrastructure that is historical really interests me. So I saw the one on the Jefferson Highway. Really didn't know anything about the Jefferson Highway to begin with. And so I read the article, and it was probably about a 3 or 4 paragraph article that gave the gist of it, the summary and general summary of Palm to Pines. And I thought, well, fascinating. And then I find out that it came right through Paola, Osawatomie, other areas of our county. And I increased my interest in it and looked into it a little further. There happened to be a link to a video that was a documentary and I was trying to find it before I got on tonight just so I could cite it. But
it's the Highway Walkers.
You probably know it, yes.
It's the Highway Walkers. You can find it on YouTube.
Yeah. So I saw that, played some clips from it, and it was fascinating. I watched the whole thing myself. But I did notice that there was kind of a gap as far as places of interest and where they stopped from Olathe, which is, by the way, where I live, all the way, I think, to Fort Scott. So there was kind of a gap in between. And I'm thinking, well, we need to try to see maybe if we can fill in that gap a little bit. And I thought, gosh, there are no highway markers in this part of the state, south of Olathe, all the way down to the southern part of the state. So last year, I ended up playing the whole documentary to the class, and I put a challenge out at the end to all my students. I have 5 classes, altogether about 100 students. And after the end of the video, I just said, hey, wouldn't that be kind of neat if one of you guys took this thing, ran with it, maybe approached somebody from city government and asked them about placing a sign up somewhere in town on the route. And I brought the route up. Mrs. Hayes helped me with that. And we were able to see that not only did it go through Paola, but it literally went right around our school building.
Wow.
Our building was the original high school. It's been there since the early 70s. But it went right around the building according to the route that we saw, and then kind of zigzagged through town and actually goes right by Mrs. Hayes' house on the south side of town as it's leaving Kansas City Road and going south. It goes southwest a little bit to Osawatomie before it kind of doubles back and then follows pretty much the 169 or 69 down the eastern half of the state. So as we look at this more, it just got more interesting, more intriguing. And the only student that really took me seriously on that and actually took it to the next level was Ruby Brewer, who's with us
Ruby.
tonight. So
Ruby,
that's
welcome.
where she got involved, and she said, yeah, I'd like to do something. She came to me after class, came to Mrs. Hayes and said, hey, I want to do something about this. I want to take this. And so we actually made a presentation to City Hall last spring. and they gave us the approval to go ahead with the purchase of the sign.
Well, I want to bring Ruby on the show. Welcome, Ruby. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. We're very excited about what you've done. What was it about the highway that got you excited to say, I want to do something?
Well, like Dan Doolittle said, it skipped from Olathe and it completely skipped our town. So I kind of looked at the map and I saw it went through our school, and I asked Mrs. Hayes and Mr. Doolittle if we could do something.
And from there, how are your friends at school feeling about it? Did they start to look like, oh, you're doing something, and help you with that?
Well, there are these two students that came to the meeting with all the council and everything and kind of helped me pass out the papers and whatnot. And they're kind of checking up and seeing how everything's going.
Mm. And how does it feel now that you know that a sign is actually, in fact, a Jefferson Highway official sign going to be placed in the town? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel happy because I feel like Paola has made so many achievements, but people just kind of skip over that and say, well, you lost a football game to so-and-so, and we won like 5 football games.
Okay, so there's the football. So you want people to know about Paola for football. What are some other achievements you want to tell people about Paola that you're proud of?
That we have so much history, because I know that Kansas was underwater and we have so many fossils that may or may not have been discovered, and we have a lot of history in Kansas.
Wow, fossils. So have you gone out fossil hunting? I don't know if it's legal, actually. I shouldn't ask that. Maybe, I don't know. But have you ever found one or seen, is there a museum that you can go to and see what you have in Paola for history?
I think so.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll just jump in here. There's an outstanding Miami County historical museum that is right in our town, and it is just chock full of artifacts, Native American artifacts, the history of Miami County, of Paola, the fact that Miami County was not the original name of Miami County. It was named after one of the original landowners who did apparently have owned slaves. I think they looked into that, and that's one reason led to the change of the name to the Miami County, which is named after the Miami Indian tribe.
Mm.
And I'll tell you what, Lisa.
Yeah,
I've talked about this before. We've talked about it in other podcasts about the great courthouses of the Jefferson Highway route. Paola is probably one of my favorite courthouses.
Oh,
You just you just immediately want to take a picture of it as soon as you're there. I mean, you just feel that you're really seeing something. And they have a beautiful square down there, but the courthouse is a block or so from that square, the park square there. But once you find it, you just have to get out and take a picture there. It's just a beautiful place.
I love courthouses. I mean, you know that. Like, that's it. Like, if we can at least get the courthouse in a town on the Jefferson Highway, I am super happy. I want to go, Debbie Hayes, the city council member again. Here you have a student, Ruby Brewer, coming in, bringing a couple other students in. You have teacher Dan Doodle, both on the show today, coming in saying, hey, we want to do something. What would you say to other city council members and leaders of communities on the Jefferson Highway about, like, kind of, hello, let's look at what we have. We may have missed something. Let's do something and make something special of it, especially for the youth to understand the history of the Jefferson Highway. And I think once you get into that, you start. And Dan, I know that you talk about, I've got something extra of interest. It's called rabbit holes on this show. So you did it. You did a good rabbit hole. I just want to say, I think it's going to breed off into more interest. And, hearing Ruby talk about fossils and things and what your community is about, that's really special to me, just
Right.
as a listener and somebody who has not arrived in your town yet, but we'll see you soon. Tell us a little bit about that process, because I would love to see more communities as we travel the trail, the highway, Nancy and I, whenever we even see just the signs on, the logo on old bridges, and you see the logo when you're driving through a downtown, and what you think is going to be the road is not, because it's historic and it changed, and, towns changed. It makes you feel very welcoming as a traveler on the highway. But then when there's these historic signs, it's like, oh yeah, you're serious, So tell us a little bit about that, about what other communities should do from that perspective. I don't know if it's legislative or not, or what the process is, but I think signage is a good thing.
Yeah, I know that most cities have ordinances about different types of signs, but the sign that you guys present fits all the boxes. So in that respect, that's not a problem. I would just encourage, one thing I do know, I think I might have talked to Mr. Doolittle about this today. I'm going to encourage our editor, when he comes and interviews us, when we get the sign posted soon, to add you all's website, any information about the map, and encourage local communities around us, look into this, see where this highway goes, get some more signs up. Let's represent the Jefferson Highway in Kansas. And I think having Ruby, kind of start blazing a trail. And it really wasn't, I know since I'm a city councilman, I had, a foot in the door with city leaders and elected leaders, but really Ruby did the hard work. She wrote a report, and she came and spoke to city leaders and the city council one evening. And I know this little girl was nervous, but she stood up there and was,
Go girl.
believe. And, it passed unanimously. Who's going to say no to a child about something that's going to represent our community so well? So I would love, more than anything, for there to be 2 or 3 more Jefferson Highway signs in just Miami County near us. I know the route that it goes south of us goes right by the Midway Drive-In. We have a beautiful drive-in that,
it's a really neat place.
Would be amazing to have a Jefferson Highway sign out that way.
Yeah.
Osawatomie has some beautiful historical places that the Jefferson Highway runs right through. So
And
I'm
a bridge.
hoping, right. Yes, it's beautiful. So I'm hoping we get a nice article written, and I'm going to plug as much of you all in it that I can possibly get, so that people can access you easily. And I will be available to answer any questions. I just don't think it's a difficult task. We didn't hit any roadblocks at all with city government here to get a sign. We just had to decide where we wanted it, and the post is already in the ground, and the sign's going to go up very soon.
Well, Debbie, I want to ask you this about the importance of that, where you're talking, like, let's get this county-wide through Miami County. Just from, Nancy and I on the tourism side of what we do in magazines, just even separate from Jefferson Highway. I do know that when communities start to work together on trails, historic trails, I don't care if it's an art trail, whatever it is, a highway, this is what the editor of Better Homes and Gardens, Roger, what's his name again? Please help me on that.
Edwin Meredith.
Yes, he had it. And when I got into the history of him and what he did he knew these communities needed tourism. And I'm like, heck yeah, that's what we're trying to do with the magazine. So it's like a kindred spirit. Like, I get all like crazy about it.
These towns were brought, back in the day, it was, it was an association of towns. So it wasn't a federal highway. It was towns working together, counties working together. Sometimes just neighbors going out and working the roads to get them, through from rough times and dragging the roads or whatever. But this is just another great story, a special story in Paola. We've talked on several podcasts recently about similar efforts in Bonham, Texas. We've got one in Plattsburgh, Missouri, where the community some community in that area just says, "Hey, this is great," and it's beaconing out from them. I can tell you in Plattsburgh, things are now going in that whole county there. Bonham, Texas, they're getting calls all over the place from communities around that. And we this is an area right here in Paola. We have some things going on in Olathe. We've touched base a little bit, some with the Osawatomie, but it's kind of an area that we really haven't touched before. And it's just, we didn't, before I got a call from Dan one day, I didn't really know that anybody really knew about us in this area. And it's just amazing how these fires kind of kindle and they just start going. And it starts right here with Dan and Ruby, and then Debbie's really taken up the charge to sponsor this sign. And it's really exciting to us as an organization. And we will do for other communities out there hearing this, contact us. We will help you move forward.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The more that everyone joins together, right, and really gets solid and strong. That's why I was going, Debbie. Do you feel that it would be a benefit for your community, not only of the sign being historic, like, hey, we are part of this. So like what Ruby worked towards, there's a historic significance so that at least the community knows that, right? And understands that. What Debbie and Dan, obviously Dan too, right? But isn't there a benefit for your community, for all of us travelers to come in and maybe go to your local coffee shop? Tell us a little bit about that. I want to know a little bit. Like, there's going to be like, what can we experience coming to your town? And that helps fund a little bit of extra resources towards the town, right?
Absolutely. There's so many things here. I think small towns kind of get forgotten, like Ruby said, and we have a new Scooters, but probably my favorite coffee place. If you come to town, I will buy you a cup of coffee at the Jackson Cafe.
I'm coming.
I would love that. The Jefferson Highway runs one block east of the Jackson Cafe, and when it was an old hotel, and it's been converted now into a 55 and older plus community, like the upstairs levels, but then the downstairs is all coffee shop and is taken back to its original everything. The Midway Drive-In is another hit. Just the big old, we still have brick streets in our community. We have the beautiful Park Square. It's
what's
beautiful
the gazebo?
Homes.
What's the gazebo I was reading about? Tell me, that's a historic thing. Yeah.
Yes. Actually the house that we live in, that Miss Ruby and I are sitting in right now, our land was purchased from Baptiste Peoria, that the house was built on. So, we live in a very old home, and it is, I just think there's so much here that if people were traveling and they wanted to go off the beaten path, Paola would have plenty of things to offer. For sure.
And that's really right down what we talk about on here is the Jefferson Highway went through the core of these towns. And there's some big cities on the highway like Kansas City and New Orleans and Winnipeg and Des Moines, Minneapolis. But most of, a lot of the things are discovering when you travel this route today, and I've traveled it. And all the people that I talk to traveling, it's discovering these jewel towns like Paola. And, not knowing anything about Paola before I came in there, you can see the pride. You can see those beautiful brick streets. You can see that courthouse. And you can just imagine the time period of Jefferson Highway here. The community once had a Jefferson Highway garage. It had leaders in the Jefferson Highway movement in Kansas. And as we bring these things back. We're getting people off these interstate highways to discover these towns like this, and this is a great place to discover. And I think it can be a destination for people that are traveling the route to stay overnight there and really enjoy it.
Yeah, no
I love
question.
it.
No question. We are blessed to be in the location that we are. I think we touched on a little bit of Kansas history early on, but all along up and down the Kansas-Missouri line, that was known as Bleeding Kansas in the
Yes.
1850s and approaching the Civil War, and
Wow.
we're smack dab in the middle of it. We are Osawatomie is where John Brown and many of
John
his
Brown.
family members hung out and
What?
won a battle. We've been to the historic site. We went there last spring on a field trip. It was just a wonderful day that we spent there and had some demonstrations and stuff. But see what happens from my perspective as an educator is that when someone like Ruby takes something like this and runs with it and shows an interest, and then she has her friends that say, "Hey, yeah, we want to be part of that too." And see,
Yeah.
you mentioned the analogy of a fire, of a fire starting, and that's exactly what we like to see as teachers from our students is they take what it is that the content or whatever, and then they go with it, and then they show interest and passion, and it spreads, and then we get city council involved, we have city government involved. Next thing you know, we have a sign, and then and that just kind of opens up a new chapter in the history of our community and
Well,
our area, which is from a teacher's perspective, that's you can't ask for more. I mean, that's true
yeah.
satisfaction. So
Well,
yeah,
Dan, I also want to talk to you about this in regards to being a teacher and also with history, because history is hard to teach. And so obviously what you've done has worked. Okay. And you got Ruby involved, and it is about bringing it home of like, hey, check this out. Check where we are. Like this, there's a pride that and involvement and action, and you got to get your feet in there. You got to get your nails in the sand and the dirt, your hands, your nails, you got to have it all. And that's,
I have 3 R's of life that's on. I've had it up on my wall for as long as I've taught, and it's respect, responsibility, and resourcefulness. And that last one, resourcefulness, really fits right into history and geography, as far as having the resources that we have and are fortunate to have in Paola, whether it's a very comprehensive and detailed web page from the museum, from the historical museum, whether it is a speaker that comes of indigenous from an indigenous tribe and talks about their heritage. We are blessed to have great resources in our community and in our town and even in our school district. And you just take those. You have to take advantage of those. You can teach history, but I think we all know that in order, if you are taught history, if you don't experience history, you can learn about it, but you may not appreciate it as much as if you experience and then you see some of these things and events that have taken place down through the years. And it's like, wow, that came right around our school. That went right through our community. That's where it really gets exciting.
That's where you can take action and be part of it. And Ruby, I wanted to go to you about this. Do you feel like you are being now part of history for your community because now you've made a change, a positive change, and you're part of a movement of remembering this history of the highway and a resurgence of where people are going to come to town now, right, over this. And you know that you are part of that. Does that make you feel good as, hey, I did something, I took action, and it's not like, the boring timelines in a textbook. Sorry, Dan, but you know what I mean, right? Ruby, do you feel good about doing this? About knowing that things are going to change because of it?
I do, because I feel like it gives our town the chance to be like, hey, we have the theaters, we have the beautiful lake, we have a whole bunch of other other of this stuff. And now that the Jefferson Highway is coming around our school, now I feel like people are going to see it and are going to come to this town and be like, wow, this is a really, really pretty town.
I love this. Hey, I'm just saying, like, you know what, Debbie, we may have to have a visitor bureau where Ruby runs this in a little bit, right?
Yes. And I will say, Ruby's family is deep rooted in Paola, and I feel like, they're well respected, and they're going to find, maybe they'll even sponsor another sign down the road. I don't know. This is so new, but this is pretty exciting. And I really feel like once this story hits the press, it's gonna explode.
I think so too. I want to go back to Dan. Dan, can you give us a little history lesson on Paola in regards to the name? I made a joke about, is it Paola Day? But you know what I mean. Can you give us a little history about that? Because I was reading up on you guys, and you have some serious history. How did that all happen?
Debbie mentioned earlier Baptiste Peoria, and that was, I believe, Paola was a derivative of Peoria. And that's kind of how they got the name Paola. Baptiste Peoria was an early tribal leader of the Peoria tribe that had been obviously relocated. Most of the Indian tribes, I should say, that are in Kansas were relocated from areas east, and continued relocation when you had the Indian Removal Act and all of those things that caused the tribes to continue to migrate west, south, into Oklahoma. And then, so Baptiste Peoria, he married a French explorer, French settler that came from France. Obviously, there were some French settlers in our area, and so they intermarried. And so that's how he got the term Baptiste. In fact, our main street that goes east and west through Paola is Baptiste. Is it Baptiste Street, Debbie, or Baptiste Avenue? I'm just Baptiste
Drive.
Yeah, that's okay.
Right, but so that's a little bit of the history. We had a couple of tribal ladies. They were descendants of ancestors. They had an ancestor named Christmas Dagenet, interesting name, who had also intermarried with French explorers, and so he was part of the tribe also. And they came, and they talked a little bit about the history of the tribes in that area, and how and where they live, and a little bit of how Paola was begun back in those days in the early 1800s, mid 1800s. So, mentioned the courthouse. The courthouse is designed by Washburn, George Washburn, who has also designed, and there are still, I think, about 7 or 8 Washburn designed courthouses in Kansas. There's another one in Franklin County just to the west, and it's almost an identical building. It's just a little bit bigger than the one in Paola. And it's, all of those kinds of things are fascinating, but that's a little bit about the origin of Paola, the square.
And there is no other Paola, is that correct, Dan?
I'm sorry? There's
not another Paola in the country?
There is not another Paola city or town. I believe there is it might be a Paola. I think it might be a park or something in California. But there are no more. It's the only town I read that somewhere, and so I'm pretty sure that's accurate.
It's the only Paola on the Jefferson Highway, but apparently, okay, I have to do this. So, Roger, was it Faribault that we were in Minnesota? Faribault? Am I getting the name right?
That's correct.
Faribault.
Yes.
And so they have, which we missed. And seriously, I just need to put Roger in the car with us, He may not like it though, but I just want to put him there because he's like, you need to go. There's teacups. There's teacup things out there. Like you can sit in a teacup or something.
That's the community that, or they invented the tilt-a-whirl was invented there. So they have,
Yeah.
What
they have,
state?
That's
Faribault,
Minnesota.
Minnesota.
So it's like, this is like the Ferris wheel kind of, all of that. And then I'm reading about Paola, and you guys had like a traveling circus headquarters.
Oh yeah.
Yes, we
Debbie,
did.
you might know a little bit more about that, but that is a fascinating part of the history of our town.
That's the thing that we get it is so many of these every community has a story, and
Right.
if you get out of your car and take some time to discover it, you will be fascinated.
But
That's the key. That's the key, Roger, is taking the time to do it.
Getting out, going south, from here, when you get in southern Kansas, you got mining Pittsburgh and communities down there. You've got Fort Scott with all the history. I mean, this Kansas route, and that's why I really enjoy the Kansas route. You intermix with so much history, the communities, you can just drive through them. You can see the pride that they have in the communities, and they're friendly people. And I often tell people to really take some time and travel the Kansas route of the Jefferson Highway. And not everybody's going to know anything about Jefferson Highway when you talk to them or you go there. That's we're still working on that, but it's there, and you will really enjoy these communities.
Well, this is a revival process, right? So it's kind of like the resurrection of the Jefferson Highway.
Correct.
But the Jefferson Highway is there. If you go to jeffersonhighway.org, get connected with the map on there.
One thing I would like to add, Lisa, too, is this sign going up in front of the school, and Debbie told us earlier that the post is up, so we'll be waiting for the sign to go up in short order. But it's a special sign. We've never created a sign quite like this. It is basically naming the school as an ambassador of the Jefferson Highway.
Wow.
So, we hope this is a thing that, this is a legacy that Ruby's actions that we do is just creating a deal that they can be prideful for this. Not only, right, it's not just a sign that you just put up and you forget about it. That that the school takes pride in this and can help be an ambassador of the Jefferson Highway. And we need a lot of ambassadors. That's how we grew.
Ruby, you rock, man. I mean, seriously, you're an inspiration for so many people to take stand on things of what they believe in or what they want to do and see change. I mean, that's a thing that I think is so bigger. We love the Jefferson Highway, but it goes bigger than that because your work goes bigger. People are going to come in from Winnipeg and go and see what you've done and go, hey, let me go to that coffee shop. Let me go see where the circus was, right? Let me go do this, but know that also a student did this. Right. And for other students, this breeds like, hello, what's my town about?
And
so
as we've
you're
talked
an
about,
inspiration.
Lisa, I mean, people are starting to travel around. We've had a podcast here with the folks that have been traveling the route or the whole route on one trip. Recently I had a talk with some people from England that plan to drive the Jefferson Highway this summer. It's just it's starting to happen in the communities that take advantage of this, make some special efforts. It goes a long way, and we're finding them now in every state. We got things going on in Minnesota and Iowa and Louisiana. It's just all over right now, and we're very excited to be talking tonight with Paola, a very important part of that movement.
Roger, all I know is over the last, I don't know how many, March will be 2 years that we've been doing the podcast.
Yes.
I did, and by the way, I want to thank Natchitoches, Louisiana, for being a sponsor of this. Natchitoches is on the Jefferson Highway. Go to natchitoches.com, natchitoches.com. It's the oldest city in the actual state of Louisiana.
It's not
on the highway.
Nacogdoches, it's Natchitoches?
Natchitoches.
Nacogdoches, Texas.
Nacogdoches is
Louisiana.
Texas,
Okay.
which is actually but that's the oldest settlement in Texas, Nacogdoches.
That's right.
And they're connected through the El Camino Real, El Camino de Tejas Real,
Trail.
El Camino Real de la Tejas National Historic Trail.
I'll take your word
And
for
that
it.
goes all the way. No, it is that. And it goes all the way from Natchitoches down through San Antonio to Mexico and back and forth, right? It's a royal road. And so there's many little, I've tried to follow it. It's like, Jefferson Highway has some detours, but holy cow, that one really has some detours. But those are ancient roads. But I mean, Jefferson Highway, you go on it and there are you can get into Arkansas land too. That's the other part. And that's like when they wanted to be part, and then there's whatever that's a whole other podcast. But the whole, no matter what, just travel it. It's so cool because you're going through smaller communities, places like Paola. It gets you off the main interstate, which you guys have
Lisa,
a main
you
interstate,
mentioned before on our website is a Google map that you can click
I
on,
love that
and
map.
you can see the route. You can also use it as a Google deal. You can see you're on the route. Just understand when you're on that there is some things that are red or whatever. Understand this is the original route. Some of them may not be the best roads in America, but you have to use it as that. And in Oklahoma, in probably about 2 months or so, we're going to have the whole state of Oklahoma signed. Iowa already has the state signed, as you know, and that's helping. But you don't have to take the whole route, and just take it little bits at a time. Take a Sunday afternoon drive if you're in the area or whatever. But you'll discover a lot of things that it's an adventure,
and travel out from it too.
Yeah,
Well,
and travel out from it.
And I'm a little bit of a cyclist, kind of a hobby, and I think it would be just a hoot to cycle this thing. Or put together some sort of a relay or something where I could ride part of it here through Kansas and pass on the baton to the next person. I mean, something like that.
Dude, that
would be a lot of fun.
Sorry,
we had a
teacher,
bicycle ride at two of our conferences, and we had the community out and ride the ride, and just that was like a 5 mile ride or 6 mile ride.
Dan, I think you might have to cycle to Louisiana.
But we really have
if I can dodge the alligators, right?
Yeah, but you could actually. It's not that far. Well, nothing is that far to us because we travel full time. But you could. I mean, is it too late in the year for the conference to do some kind of cycling? You've got a sociability caravan. Why can't there be aside? I'm
also a cyclist, and I kind of set that up. I have a vintage bicycle that I took to that conference and rode it, but it takes. I'm not sure we'll do it now, but we are excited about our conference. We will be in Natchitoches during our sociability caravan. So.
I'm just saying, Dan, get your bicycle and get to Louisiana, and because the sociability caravan's happening then, and then April, it's also Alexandria is the the place for the annual conference, and cycling. Like honestly, I actually know where you're going to cycle through. That would be a long cycle.
What is it? 50 miles, 100 miles?
I don't cycle, but I have a friend that cycled the perimeter of the country.
Yeah.
And he did it as a retired earth science teacher. So from teacher to teacher, I'm just saying.
Those are fascinating.
I'm going to send you a link to his book on it. It's crazy. But I think there's something about that. I mean, I would like to personally walk it.
Well, we're seeing, we have an even interest now a little bit from motorcyclists, and I was fascinated recently to come across an article in the early days of Jefferson Highway talking about motorcyclists in 1916 traveling the route. And, so it was done even then, but it's, we're starting to see some RV people interested. It's
And you're
it's
allowed
your
to
adventure.
deviate from
It's
the
your
trail
adventure.
too. Exactly.
If
I
you
love
like,
that you say
if you
that.
like, if you like cycling, bring your bike along. Enjoy it.
Okay. Oh
If
my gosh. That's
so
it. I'm going to walk the trail. I'm going to walk it. I swear, but not all in one because of the snow. Like I
that's a
have to do
different.
it in the right season, but I want to walk it. Like to me, there's something about actually walking the entire trail, like Pacific Crest Trail. You've got the Appalachian Trail, but now I want to say, hey, there's the American Discovery Trail. The same friend, Jim Ostick, that I was telling you about, Dan, that he cycled the circumference of the country. He also, when he retired, walked the American Discovery Trail from Maryland to California. He walked across the country.
Yeah.
He
That'd be
and it was
great.
all
If you had the time and
now.
the resources, that would be fantastic. I
Yeah,
would
he
love to
didn't
do
have
that.
I don't know how he did it. But he's an awesome man. But I
Well, you
would
remember the
think
walk?
we
Remember
could
the
do this.
podcast we had with the Walker guy?
Yes, we did. Yes, the walking man. Yes. And I've loved following because he goes to places. But if we could make, it doesn't have, this is the thing. There's the exact trail, and the exact trail is different in history than what is now. But we can all, as part of this revival, make it what we want it to be. So if you want to walk it, you can do it. I'm just bringing it out there because I know we have so many listeners that are hikers and walkers and those kind of like, let's do the whole thing people. I know, and I love you all because we're like that too. Let's do it. Make it that. We can all, a revival of something is so exciting. There's a life and an energy. Ruby being part of this is so huge. We have someone young who's understanding and getting it on. Like, hello, let's bring this to the people. Let's make people know. Let's make our community know. Doing it and understanding, hey, how to navigate the waters of hello, knock on, a Congress, not Congress, sorry,
Well, the
council,
thing I
city
see on
councilwoman's
Ruby
door.
to
That's
me
huge.
too is,
She'll end up
Ruby
in Congress.
Ruby took action. There's a lot of people that have an interest in this or whatever, but they don't always take action, and that's the next step, and that's a great thing to do that at a young age, is to step out. And I'm sure going in front of the city council was nervous. It's nervous to me when I have to speak to the city council, so I can imagine what that was like. But it's really great.
Well, and
Uh,
there's no question that she is the most valuable player in our part of it. Because you
I
look at
love
it,
it.
you look at it. If she doesn't step up, if she doesn't show an interest in this, there's no sign. We're not on a podcast with you guys tonight. We don't, we had a little venture into the Jefferson Highway interest that I brought up in class. But if these kids don't take it and run with it, then that's where it's probably going to stay.
Yeah,
And
that's
good for
right.
you as a teacher, by the way, from doing
Oh.
something a little bit different and looking into local history and getting your kids that you're teaching connected. I appreciate that so much.
That's why I'm biased, but you teach history, you can delve into any area of history and still be able to spin it as following your curriculum. A math teacher can't do that. An English teacher can't do that. They have their skills they have to teach. But I can go anywhere and everywhere and still be within the realm of my curriculum. And that includes local history, which is
I
to
love
me
that.
is more fascinating than any aspect of
Well,
history.
if you
Is
don't
right in your
teach
backyard.
if you don't teach local history and get people connected with their own local history, how are you going to teach the world history? Right?
Exactly.
It's like, and it's people history.
Yep.
Ruby, when you looked into the Jefferson Highway, did you think about the people that traveled there or the people that were there when the highway was did you think about the actual people? Does that interest you at all?
It really okay. So it amazes me how a lot of people just went on dirt roads before the actual Jefferson Highway came, and it took a lot of work to get a paved road for a Jefferson Highway because they didn't know how to pave the roads because all they had was gravel roads or dirt roads. But then they made a highway from Winnipeg to New Orleans.
New Orleans.
And it amazes me how people can go from Winnipeg to New Orleans on a paved road when they didn't really know anything about it.
Right. And that was bold. It was bold. It was pretty scary to think, and those cars are not what the cars we had, right? You know, when you think
It took
about
a lot
that.
of guts to bring that up.
Yeah. That's the travelers back then. Like I always look at, Vasco da Gama and Henry and, the explorer, all these people that were exploring, they didn't know what they were going to. And that's the same thing as the travelers on the Jefferson Highway. They kind of knew, but our communication, we didn't have Google, right, Ruby? We didn't have Google. We didn't have Google. We didn't have we didn't have GPS on our phones or anything like that. So did that kind of amaze you too when you looked at this?
Yeah, because in my eyes, it's like, how did they know from Winnipeg to New Orleans? But then I've got to think they knew how to read maps, like really well. They knew how to do compasses and everything else. And they had no Google. They had the encyclopedia. So they had anything they had, like, questions about, they had to go to, like, the dictionary or something to just flip the page, look it up.
Wow. And encyclopedias, do people even know what they are now, right?
But to know how to use a compass.
Yeah, really, a compass. Yeah.
They had to follow the Jefferson Highway painted pole signs.
Yeah, exactly.
This is fantastic. I want to thank you all for joining us today on this special show. And I especially want to thank Ruby. Ruby, you rock. You rock. You totally do. What you've done, I'm coming to Paola because of you and the highway and what you've done. Just know people are going to come to town and you put your foot in that, and that's a good thing. It's good to get into something you're passionate about and put your foot in it and see what happens and to follow your passion and dreams. That's why I'm saying this is bigger. What Ruby has done, I think, is bigger. Wouldn't you say, Dan? It's bigger. It's an example for all kinds of things that can happen.
Well, yeah. And as I mentioned earlier, then people see her excitement, her friends, and they pick it up and they go with it and they go off another little rabbit trail and open up something else. So yes, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan.
I would really like to, maybe in our next newsletter, Mr. Doolittle, maybe they could, plug this too at school, and get some other kids, their awareness. Ruby's birthday is on Sunday, and she brought in a book that her dad already gave to her early for her birthday, and he bought her a Jefferson Highway history book for her birthday. So,
it's on Kansas. Her birthday is on Kansas Day Eve.
Yes. No way.
Yes.
That is so cool. That is cool. Ruby. Ooh. Now, are there rubies that can be mined in Kansas? Like that's a whole other thing.
No.
No, apparently not. Well, we have one ruby. There you go. We got one ruby.
She's our ruby.
Well,
we have our gem in Paola. Yes,
that's right.
I love that. Listen, Ruby, happy birthday! Happy birthday to you. And that means what cake? What do you want for cake? I want to know because I'm ready for cake now. What do you want for cake?
Red velvet cake with pink ice cream.
Oh, with pink ice cream. Now, does it need to be strawberry or just pink? It's about the color or the flavor of the ice cream.
It's okay. So there's I can't remember what it's called, but there's like this tub of ice cream where it has pink, it's got white chocolate and then pink, and I don't know what the flavor is, but it's really good.
I'm in with you. I hope that when we get to Paola, that we get to sit down with you and have some red velvet cake, 'cause, Ruby, right? And some of that ice cream, white milk chocolate. I just bring it. Let's have cake.
Let them eat cake.
Yes. Marie Antoinette would agree. Everyone, keep up with the Jefferson Highway at jeffersonhighway.org. Debbie, are there any websites that people should go to learn more about Paola?
You can Google anything, Paola history of, or the Wikipedia. I know the museum here has a beautiful website. I would just get on City of Paola, and there's so many links on there.
There's a Kansas Historical Museum or Kansas Historical Society website. It's just known as Kansapedia.
Yes.
Which would have plenty on Miami County, Paola, and the area.
Okay. Well,
the Patterson Circus would be really interesting for someone to get on and look at that too. There's some amazing pictures of our old circus.
That's some crazy history. You guys have some crazy stuff that happened. It's like fun, crazy fun.
Yes.
What we'll do is we'll link that in the show notes for everybody, whether you're listening on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, wherever. We'll list those links in there for you, and we appreciate everybody joining us. Roger, thank you so much. You always bring amazing people to the show.
Yeah, I knew this would be a special podcast, and thanks to all that's been on it. We are excited also. Just want to real quickly kind of plug our upcoming conference. You can go to our website, jeffersonhighway.org. You're going to find all the information about it. We have some great speakers lined up. Stephanie Stuckey's the granddaughter of the founder of Stuckey's is going to be one of our special guests. We have a pre-conference caravan that, like we did in Iowa last year. We're going to go from downtown Shreveport over 2 days along the highway through Natchitoches. We're going to have an overnight in Natchitoches before we head into Alexandria. We are registered. We already have we have quite a few registrants already starting to pick up, and a lot of the information there. If you have any questions, please email us at info@jeffersonhighway.org.
So, Roger, are you saying that there were Stuckeys along the Jefferson Highway?
Well, there was. The thing about history is we look on the highway is it's not always about the 1915, 1930 time period.
Right.
You have that right there with that great drive-in movie theater just to the south of you.
You have a movie theater that's huge.
You drive down the road and all of a sudden you see this movie theater that looks like it's out of time or something.
Hey, the Midway is one of 4 drive-in movies theaters in the entire state that's still operating.
It looks like it was just like the way it used to look. It just, it just was fascinating.
Is it functioning? Functioning?
Oh, yeah, it's functioning.
Yeah.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Guess what we went and saw this summer there? We went and saw Barbie at the Midway Theater.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I would love to see a movie there. I drove by it, took all kind of pictures when I was there.
Yep.
Oh man, that's amazing. That's amazing.
We talk about here and things about all kind of different times of history.
But I think having a movie theater just so goes in with the whole highway. That just goes with the whole, feeling of a historic highway. That's amazing. I want to thank you all. I just am so excited to go to Paola this year. This will happen. And Ruby, will you take us to the sign when we get there? I hope we get to meet you so you can show us the sign because it will be up by then, right? In spring, summer, it'll be there.
Yep.
It's going to be up soon. And as soon as it gets up, I will be sending a picture to y'all.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, Ruby. It has been a pleasure. Everyone, again, jeffersonhighway.org. is the place to go. And all the links and everything we talked about will be in the show notes. And I especially remind you all about the conference coming up in Louisiana. And we know that Dan is going to cycle from Paola, Kansas down to Alexandria, Louisiana. Right, Dan? You're going to do that.
Yeah.
Come on, Dan. I'll help you. I'll drive alongside you.
Okay.
I will not cycle, but I will help you.
Okay.
But anyway, all right.
Maybe there'll be a Stuckey's along the way.
Oh, Stuckey's, that's our buddies. That's our buddies' family. And, but that's part of the history of highways is road stops. Yep. It's all part of it, and yep. That's the beauty of Stuckey's. And I'm glad that she's going to be there. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for joining us here on the Big Blend Radio Jefferson Highway Show. The show airs every fourth Thursday, and we encourage you to go to jeffersonhighway.org to learn more about the Jefferson Highway Association or even become a member. You can also dig into the history of the highway and share travel notes with friends at the Jefferson Highway Association Facebook group. Follow our shows at bigblendradio.com. Happy travels!